FrightFest Television here, everyone. I'm so delighted to have the UK premiere of the Babadook, and its star, Essie Davis, is with us. Thank you so much for coming to visit us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Now listen, let's go through the whole thing. I mean, how did it get into your hands when you read the script? I mean, did you know Jennifer Kent at all?
Jennifer was the year ahead of me at drama school. We went through NIDA together, and she was like eerily phenomenal actress. Like the girl that was obviously the best girl in the whole school. And just wild and wonderful, and someone who I really aspired to be as genuinely good as. And we formed a friendship, and her acting career never really went to where it should have gone. If she was in London, she would have been probably a dame by now, but in Australia, no. But she had written a film for me that we had worked on for quite some time that we were trying to make, and it didn't happen. And in frustration, she was like, all right, I'm going to write a horror film because that's what people want to see. But then where she came from was actually not a place of horror. It was a place about, I guess, from something that was inside of herself, of what it means to repress something, push something away that you regret happening or that was a bad experience in your life, and how far can you push it down, and what happens when you deny that thing that becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And she wrote The Babadook. And because I know a lot of writers and directors and actors, I particularly know that she had acted every part as she'd written it. When I read it in the middle of the day, I was horrified and terrified and wondering, and I was like, Jen, are you sure you want to make this movie? And she's like, yeah. Do you think it's scary? And I said, it's really, really scary. She said, do you want to do it? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. And then she asked me to audition for it. And I thought, if I audition for this, I'm basically saying, yes, I want to do it. And I was really scared because it's quite a confronting role, particularly to dealing with motherhood. And as a mother myself, I recognise myself and lots of mothers in it, and I felt a bit worried that it was extreme but way too close to me, and that my children might hate me forever. This film. And but it was I'm really glad that I said yes, and that it became a really beautiful experience, because she's the only director I haven't argued my point with, actually. I normally am quite an argumentative actor in terms of going, no, don't you understand? The character comes from here and here and here. You've got it. What? This could happen and this could happen. And often a director will not have seen that. But I knew that she'd lived it. And so I would come into a scene, and she would... I would have my expectations of where we were going to go with that scene, and she'd go, for example, the bathtub scene, where it's post a particular car incident, and I expected a certain level of trauma and anxiety, and she said, this is the happiest moment in the movie. You could not be happier. So serene, that bath is so warm and lovely. And I went, okay, yep. Whenever she said, I kind of went yes to, including like being incredibly bare and revealing some pretty awful stuff, and having to go physically to some places her script may not have necessarily made it to the screen, but that certainly Amelia, there's moments in the film where she's described in kind of cockroach, like her movements are become this particular, and we did a lot of we did a lot of physical work, just the two of us, by ourselves in a room, and I'm talking a lot.
No, you're not. You're actually, really, doing it very well. I mean, because there's an emotional truth in the movie that I think is what's causing people to really react as the way they do. I mean, it's quite it's a shocking film to watch as it carries on, I think. I mean, so there's that, and I think that's why people are really, really reacting and coming out quite emotionally drained.
Well, I really do hope that it is that my whole point as an actor is that something has to come from great honesty, and that people can recognise themselves and feel empathy for even the worst possible situations. I do think that there is, sleep deprivation is one of the greatest torture tools that exist in the world, and I think that motherhood is also one of the hardest things in the world, particularly in our Western society, where we don't necessarily have everyone giving birth at the same time, big families living together, and the grandma's there looking after their children, and we're not living in a world in Western cities where that happens anymore. And so parenthood is often like a kind of rite of passage that no one has any idea how to do. And there are books about it, and everyone has their 10,000 pieces of advice about it. And every parent I know doesn't think they do it very well. Or they go, oh my God, my daughter said exactly back to me what I just said to them. They see themselves reflected all the time. In Australia there have been some, I'm sure everywhere in the world, but a man threw his daughter off the bridge to get back at his wife, out of a family holiday, driving home with his son and daughter in the car, and just went. And I bet he regretted it. Parents can do terrible things to their children, and although this film is not necessarily about that, and I don't want to give it away, but I think I had to have. It's also, it's about mental health and about someone's incapacity to love their child because a terrible, terrible, terrible thing has happened to her that she's just pushed away. And yes.
Where did Jennifer, the Babadook character itself, that's actually quite an inspired creation, really, isn't it? Did she think long and hard about that? Did she ask what your opinion of it was and how you're going to... And also, because there was a child actor involved, it must have been sort of like quite a sort of like a balance to get right.
The balance... Well, the script was complete before I or Noah became involved in it. The Babadook... The word the Babadook came from her wanting to have something that sounded like a child could have made it up, but also something that was like beautifully alliterated, and from that alliteration came this kind of poem that is, if it's in a word or if it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook. And it's this kind of lovely, eerie thing that a child could have created. And it's not something that we all know. It is kind of the boogeyman, and maybe it is Baba Yaga, but it's none of these things. It's not something that's known, but it is like your worst nightmare. And there's all of these special little parts that are in the movie that are tiny little clues that, like, the people who watch it 700 times will go, oh, she said this. And, even things that Jen and I didn't discuss, but like at the children's birthday party where all of the parents are interrogating Amelia and trying to include her in their world. And you know, they say, what has she done? She says, oh, she's written some children's books, just, you know, little things like that where you go, oh, all of these parts of this world are not necessarily from an external source.
I mean, crucial for the actors who plays your son, I think, Sam. I mean, that must have been hard to correct. Did you audition a lot of people to get that chemistry correct?
I think our fantastic casting agent Nikki Barrett auditioned about 400 boys, and culled that down to, I'm not sure how many Jen then went and spent time with and worked with, and she sent me, I think, about 4 or 5 boys and said, it might be him, it might be him. And Noah wasn't amongst those boys, but then, and they were beautiful, all really beautiful children. But Noah, what a find. He, not only is he not a theatre kid, not a star-studded, spangled anything, he had literally just been sent to drama classes the weekend that they were looking for boys. His mum is a child psychologist and the most awesome mum, and he had a little sister too, and they were around day in, day out. We were very, very delicate with Noah, the most beautiful child, really innocent and in his own world, and very happy to make believe. And Jen said that his audition was, she was like, okay, you've got to sneak into this place, and she said he was the only kid who went and found a key, an imaginary key, and unlocked a door and locked it behind him. And so he was very available to go into a place of play and make believe. And also we rehearsed together a couple of weeks before we started filming, and he didn't read the script. Jen told him the story of the Babadook and told him ultimately it's about a child who is able to save his mother through the power of love. And he's like, oh, the power of love! Oh, you know, he was such a beautiful child. I mean, he was a 6-year-old, so dealing with attention and trying to get into the correct kind of emotional space was really complicated. And we worked together a lot in terms of he and I just playing together and doing scenes together, just improvising stuff together, and then when it finished we'd give each other a cuddle and go, you know, it was just playing a game. And they had this kind of idea of locking away the Babadook every night, so that was never going to hurt anyone. And you know, all of the scenes he was incredibly protected, so any language that he had to listen to, I either was in the middle of saying you in the middle, and I would literally pull the word in and ADR it afterwards, or he was not present. I said something completely different to him for his scenes.
Wow.
And then he would go, and then I had a stand-in guy who got on his knees, and I would talk to him.
Oh, wow.
So I did a lot of work by myself and a lot of work with a stand-in actor, so that he was protected. And in the parts where it is quite obvious that we are in the same moment together, sometimes I was incredibly scary, much scarier than I am in the film. But afterwards, we would always have a cuddle and just, you know. And if he had to have a tantrum in the car, we'd be driving around the car, and Jen would be in the back of the car with him, and I'd be in the front of the car driving and saying, hey, do you know what a tantrum is? No, have you ever had a tantrum? No. You know, kids forget what they do. And we go, well, this is, Jen, this is how I have a tantrum. When I really don't get my way, this is how I feel, and I go like that. And I'm going, and when I have a tantrum, I go like that. What can you do? And he's like, yeah. we often would have lots of fun where we're all like play acting together and seeing who can outdo each other in our tantrum or in our fear or in our sobbing and then he'd go away, and then I let loose.
I mean, you must be thrilled with the fact that it's done so well. Sundance, great reviews. I mean, here you are. I mean, did you expect it to have that breakout success? I mean, it's doing really well.
I don't know what I expected. I gave my all for Jen because I think that she deserved it. I think that she wrote a great film, and she was one of the most powerful directors I've worked with in terms of, she got a lot of shit through the making of it, but she never gave up. She doggedly fought for her ideas and wouldn't let go and would go for them again and again. And I thought this film, I thought it could be The Shining or it could be a piece of shit. And when I saw it, I was like, this is beautiful and amazing and really moving, but it's not scary. And then I went to Sundance and people went, ah! And I went, oh, it is scary. Okay. It's all a surprise for me. All I know is that a lot of love went into making it, and a lot of, it was a very, it was the opposite of anything to do with vanity, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm really proud of Jen for fighting, and I'm really proud of Noah for being, and I'm proud of myself for going on that journey and going yes to everything she asked for.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed. Great.